feel free to fail, or at least feel free to move, so that not everything has to be perfect, because God knows life isn't perfect and there are rough edges. And on your way to becoming good at something, you necessarily have to stumble and bump and fall and pick yourself up and dust yourself off and go again. We all have 2 lives. The second begins when you realize you only have one. You only get one. Like, this is it. So I'm not wasting any time. I saw an amazing video on YouTube, and it was about this young guy who was told he had a terminal illness. He had about 100 days to live, and it was incurable. He basically spent the last 100 days of his life being amazing. And he did all the things that he had always wanted to do. And it seemed like he was more alive in those 100 days than the rest of us, because he knew that it was all going to end. And it made me think, well, it is going to end, so I better get on with it. And that's a very galvanizing thing. It's like, do what you love. I think it's a quote from Shakespeare, which is 4 words: take pains, be perfect. I think his way of saying, don't be afraid of caring. I mean, when I started acting, well, basically I gave myself permission to care, because there are a lot of people in this world who are afraid of caring, or afraid of showing that they care, because it's uncool. It's uncool to have passion. It's so much easier to lose when you've shown everyone how much you don't care if you win or lose. It's much harder to lose when you show that you care. You'll never win unless you also stand to lose. And it was basically, I've said it before, don't be afraid of your passion. Like, just give it free rein and be honest and work hard and be on time. Never underestimate the importance of punctuality. Be prepared. You can never be over-prepared. And be true to yourself. And it'll all turn out just fine. And the thing is that, with negativity is they are like clouds that pass across the sun, and they will pass. Like, they're just feelings, you know what I mean? And it's important not to dwell on them and just move past it. There is so much, I find, and maybe it's my nature, but there's just so much about life that's amazing. And when you kind of key into that, and I try not to get bogged down in disappointment, and nobody has an easy ride, that's for sure. There's not a single person in this room who's had an easy ride, and it's about to get harder, I'm sure. But it also gets better, and the point about going through those experiences is you just have to sort of go, well, it is what it is, and it'll pass. I live near a couple of parks in London. I remember one night I couldn't sleep, and it was the summer. I got up really early in the morning, and I went and walked to the nearest big hill, and I saw the sun rising. And sometimes, that's the answer, is just get up when the sun gets up and look around, and you realize you're part of an amazing planet. That's what I do. When I was at drama school was really hard. They deliberately kind of overwork you, and they just throw everything at you. And maybe I was on a 3-year course at a drama school in London called RADA. The first year you kind of work at you, sort of slightly showing your strengths and the things that you're good at. And the second year they throw you everything you can't do, all the things that are your weaknesses, and you're basically to work on your weaknesses. What's the point in working on your strengths? You're working sort of 16-hour days, and you're exhausted and you're drained and you're physically tired. And I kind of lost the love a bit. I lost my mojo. I think my worst experiences are usually quite solitary ones. The life of an actor, especially at the beginning, feels solitary, and you're going up for auditions and going up for different parts, and repeatedly, politely declined, sometimes impolitely declined. And the door will be closed in your face, and you won't know why. And that moment is always a puzzling one, because the natural instinct is to take it personally. I certainly felt as though I had failed, and you can get very despondent. The challenge is to find a way of negotiating that sense of rejection, that sense of failure, without it eroding your sense of self and your own specific talent and your own curiosity in the work. I think a myth in the business is that we all have everything to choose from, is that we don't. I know I'm not top of everybody's list, but sometimes you might read something and think, I have read things and gone, wow, this is amazing. And I've chased it down and knocked on the door, and people have said, actually, it's not you, Tom, or we're thinking of someone different. And then my job is to keep knocking on the door and say, let me see if I can change your mind. I've been very diligent in my training and tried to listen to the advice of all my teachers and instructors as a student, as an academic, as a training actor, and I always wanted to do right by them. And I found myself, it's a very scary moment when you're a young actor, most people find themselves in their early 20s, and everything is possible and nothing is guaranteed. And you start auditioning, and if you're lucky enough, you have an agent, and you start auditioning, and they send you everything from period drama to Casualty to dairy milk commercials, and you are thrown into the business and thrown into it at the deep end, and there's no time for doubt or failure, except routinely that's what happens to all of us. And I perhaps was too careful in auditioning, and I would always get close to landing roles and to booking jobs, and I would never quite get there. And I mean, this is a universal experience for all creative people, certainly actors, is that the constant rejection at the beginning. And you have to get used to it, and you have to get thick-skinned about it. And she got so exhausted. I was trying to sort of, because at first you take it very personally, and I thought, well, no one's going to help me get there. The only person who can do this is me. And I started preparing in a different way, and I sort of stepped up to the plate a little better, I think, because I could feel time sliding away, and I wasn't getting on with life. I just was sort of stuck in this rut of neither acting nor doing anything else. And the experience of being in your 20s is so energetic, and I felt so stagnant, actually. So I just kind of changed everything up, and it worked. It's just a gut feeling. I always trust my gut. That's all I have. Even when I'm working and you're thinking about the shape of a scene and how it should be played, and your head can often get in the way, and you've got to trust your gut. It's just, if I'm inspired, if my curiosity is piqued and I want to chase this possibility down that I see in front of me on my desk. And some of you may have heard me say this before, but I always, embarrassed to say, I always speak in metaphors. I don't know how to speak in any other way. And for me, acting is kind of like playing the piano. And if the piano is the human condition, we all have every single note on that 88 key board within us. And for me, every role, I want to be able to play every note. And sometimes if a character or a story seems to stretch me in some way, seems to offer up an experience that is new, that is a different chord or a different tune, that is real and true and human and accessible, and no matter how joyous or loving or warm or how dark or painful, if it seems like an interesting shape to inhabit, I know if I'm running towards it already. I don't know how to do it any other way. Actually, I don't know that I've ever been able to do anything. I say it as a sort of, because I'm aware that it can be a strength, but it can also be a weakness because the focus is obsessive. And so when I go for something, I go for it at the expense of everything else. And I love what I do, and I feel so lucky that I'm allowed to do it and that I get to do it for a living. And cinema and theater have had such a profound effect on me in my life. And every time a new script or a new role comes along, I'm motivated by the thought that I won't forgive myself if I don't give it everything. But I do try to choose different kinds of things because I'm interested in the diversity of people and the complexity of people and the multiplicity we contain within us. I really think the thing that unites us all in the world is that we are constantly inconstant. And that inconstancy and that contradiction is something that I've always tried to explore with my characters, because I think we do things that we contradict ourselves all the time. There's the Walt Whitman poem, The Song of Myself. I am large, I contain multitudes, I contradict myself. I think it doesn't matter at what stage you're at in your creative life or in your career, but people will always have an idea of who they think you are. And often it's inaccurate or not wholly accurate. And you mustn't let them change your own sense of who you are. You have to plow your own furrow, because only you know, and only you know what you had to go through to deliver that performance in that audition or on that stage, and protect that with everything you have, because all those people who think they know who you are didn't do the work, and they don't know. So have that faith in yourself.